name's Aaron. I'm the co-founder, managing director here at BWG Connect. We're a giant networking knowledge sharing group. Actually, this week, celebrating our 8th year since we kicked it off. And so it's
Happy
a fun
birthday.
time. I know, right? It went by, I wouldn't say way too fast, but man, faster than I thought it would. I
I think
spent
I saw that picture of you on LinkedIn with your family. Thought that was
yeah,
really
that was the trip out there. Yeah.
yeah.
They're all 8 years older now. So the oldest is actually an intern. And
Nice,
Yeah, it's
nice.
crazy. So I spend the majority of my time just talking with brands. I was on the brand side, trying to figure out what are the biggest pain points, what are people trying to solve for, and when the same topics come up over and over again, we host an event like this. We'll do, I don't know, probably a couple hundred of them this year, and probably around somewhere between 70, 80 dinners, I think is going to be this year. I say that because if anybody on the line today, if you're at a tier one city or if you're at the major conferences, let us know. We'd love to meet you in person and send you an invite to one of the dinners we do. So as I noted, I'm spending a lot of time talking to brands and I'm asking them, hey, what are your biggest pain points? And then also, hey, who's out there that's helping you actually solve the problem? Joshua and I have been connected for, man, years now, right? I think we first met even at
A few
Shop Talk in
years.
person a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But all around great friends, partners, supporters of the network. And so when we came up with this topic around, what's broken in commerce and commerce media as a whole and how to fix it, the team at Amped came up. And they're great friends, partners, supporters of the network. And so, Josh, I'll kick it over to you. And then if you want to kick it to Brandon for kind of a brief intro on yourselves and what you guys do at Amped, that would be awesome. And then we'll just kind of jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Sounds great. Yeah, so Joshua Gebhardt, CEO, co-founder at AMP with my illustrious CTO co-founder here, Brandon, and I head up most of the business side.
Great, and I do the innovation and the technology side.
And in short, AMP closes the loop on measurement from offsite media into retailers for measurable outcomes.
Really quick. So when you say closes the loop, that's just providing attribution back. Does that include Amazon as well?
Yeah, Amazon, Walmart, we're in conversation with some of the other big ones that you might imagine. And no, it's actually a lot more than that. We're gonna love to talk about some of that as we get in.
Okay. I don't mean to like short circuit the whole conversation.
No. It's a great question though. Absolutely Amazon attribution is a key part. That's a very manual process. But what AMP does is automate that whole, beginning to end of the ad creation, the ad deployment, activation, the measurement, and then scaling against the ads that are working, the customers that want to have and find your product on the retailer. So yeah, that attribution is part of it.
Yeah. So if we jump into it, just if we capture the title here around commerce media, which is a little bit different, right? Because sometimes you are like retail media, sometimes it's performance marketing, it's paid digital media. When we say like commerce media, I don't want to recoin a word, but like,
Right.
what do you think? How do you define that in this space? And then we can kind of just start talking about, what are the changes? Because there's so much that has changed just in the past like 3 to 4 years. I just
Yes.
want to re-level set everything as we get in this conversation.
Yes.
Again, everybody, if you have questions along the way, drop them in the Q&A and we'll get them answered pretty much real time in an open Q&A session. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And man, same minds is probably why we connected so well at first. But Brandon and I had a thesis that it's because retail media was the zeitgeist, right? It still is in many regards. But watching Amazon's meteoric rise and Walmart following in suit and Target and all the rest of them kind of, a new retail media network was born every day. And so retail media was the de facto term. I feel like that everyone referred to, but in reality, it should be thought of as commerce media. And retail media is a subsection and important and a very big subsection, but commerce media to us is all media that drives towards measurable outcomes or outcomes that should be measurable. We'll talk about that. It's broken, but outcomes on the retailer and obviously on brand.com, but increasingly, I think it's 89% of North America and frankly the world too, wherever it be available, want to purchase on the retailer. Just easier. You can get the returns. It's all the reasons Amazon and Walmart are who they are. But I think commerce media is all of it. It's anything that is directing folks to get the products and brands that they love in their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think from that standpoint, when we think about retail media, is it was the independent retailers asking for funding for digital efforts that are out there that they're doing straight on site, directing back to their own site.
That's right.
And it was a bifurcation from the standpoint of brands were hesitant to do that if they could not get attribution.
Right.
And so these two things have been held separate.
That's
But I'd
right.
say one of the biggest changes, even over the past 18 to 24 months, is that mindset is slowly shifted to even on the Amazon front of how can I think a lot of it driven by Amazon Marketing Cloud opening up,
Uh-huh.
allowing you to use even the DSP to identify people on the AMC, custom audiences, DSP to your direct to consumer site. And it just everybody was like, okay, wait a minute, I can look at this holistically. And
Mhm.
then the lines started to bleed away from the traditional retail media and what it was into commerce media, which you're saying. I'm putting this all together real time. So thanks for walking
Yeah,
me through this because I do
yeah. I
assume.
mean, the walled gardens are becoming hedged and smaller hedges, right? Yeah, yeah. They don't want to
Yeah,
interrupt. Oh, but I'm agreeing. That's I think what's happening. That's exactly right.
You,
yeah,
you bring up a good point with DSP. I mean, the reason why DSP has become such a focal point is because it's measurable. You can tie it back to actual retail outcomes. And so if you think about the next evolution of where we're all headed, is if you think about all the brand dollars, those national budgets that brands are spending, they need to be able to have that same sort of accountability on sales for those. And so the big question in the market is I have these big national budgets. How do I make sure that I'm able to get the same type of measurement, same type of closed loop that I'm
mhm,
getting on DSP or that I'm getting on retail media? So a large portion of this, if you think about social, for instance, Meta and TikTok, there's large budgets that are being deployed there. And the State of the Union today, and talking about really what's broken in the State of the Union, is that the best you can do as a marketer is be able to measure impressions and clicks, so reach. And so this is where we believe the next evolution is where you're going to start understanding from, especially from social, how is that actually translated to sales?
Yeah, if I can just riff on that for a second, I totally agree. I mean, what Brandon's saying is absolutely true. That I feel like some of the most broken things today in media are really two things come top of mind. But as Brandon's saying that I think about is one is lift studies, right? Lift studies are great. They shouldn't go away. You need those for budget, future planning, but to make real time decisions, the speed of customer, they don't work anymore. And then the second thing is this what Brandon said, impressions, reach, eyeballs. And if I can, you were in the industry, and let's just say for a second that you were the CFO of whatever one of the companies that you used to work for, a brand company, and I'm your CMO, and I come to you and I say, "Hey, Aaron, I just spent $5 million last month. We got some incredible impression, incredible reach, eyeballs. It's amazing." You, as a very smart CFO, as you are, would come back to me, and your response, or should be, or could be, should be, "That's awesome, Joshua. Can you tell me how many sales that market
yeah,
delivered?" And today, I don't think people can
Yeah,
answer that question. And that's what's
yeah,
broken today. We're no longer living in the Mad Men era where you can just put something out there and hope it works. You have to be able to measure it.
and marketing are some of the biggest budgets. In what other place in your business, like if you think of you're a CPG brand, can you deploy such large budgets and not have it tied back to sales on a weekly and a monthly basis?
Yeah. It's almost laughable. It's a little crazy if you
It's
think
crazy.
about it.
it is. No, I mean, I even think, but you think about like how quickly it evolved, right? So COVID hits, there's about a year as everybody gets everything together and they start hiring and putting people into place. And then there's this massive push for any kind of digital media. It could be, traditional paid search, social, RMN, network investment with retail media dollars. It was just like spend money.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
that was the best time, right? That
right.
was because it was
Yeah,
spend at all costs. And
right.
then they all got caught after they spent it at the end of the next year Ooh, and there, you're right. The CFOs were coming in and are like, okay, so what do we get for it? You're like, what do you
Right.
mean? What do we get for it? Like, well, what did you do with the money? Like, we spent it.
Right.
We spent it. That's what you
Yeah,
told us to
right,
do was spend.
Yeah,
right,
And now, I mean, there has to be that measurement piece. There has
yeah,
to be, but there has to, the gap that's getting filled now is the actual tools that can allow you to do that. And what
yeah,
was hard and a gap, and I still they're not totally refined, but there was a gap year there where marketers are like, I would love to tell you, but it's so difficult to be accurate. Like how accurate do you want me to be with limited tool sets?
exactly. And it didn't really, to be honest, it didn't exist. Part of it because we were building it, but also the retailers didn't. It just the ability wasn't there. And some of our largest, well, I'm thinking of one particular very large customer that we all know, says something that we absolutely agree with fundamentally is today social is the closest place to knowing your customer. Unfortunately, in the past, that's where the biggest reach and impressions was done. Let me see how many people I can get to, and hopefully we know they're probably going to buy our CPG products on Amazon or Walmart or Target. But to not be able to measure that and connect that together is a super problematic situation because especially on social, you're dealing with a virality type of platforms, right? Like think of TikTok, I feel like defines virality or Meta, but you have a moment, a glimmer in time when you can measure and activate and take a decision. You can't 3 months later, it doesn't matter, right? You just lost X millions of dollars of sales and the ability to iterate on what is resonating with your customers. It is the closest place to knowing your customer, but you, as you said, you need the tools that have the real-time measurement, real-time meaning within a day or a week, but not quarters and years, to move at the speed that the customer is moving so that you can then get more of those customers and serve them well, really, and grow the brand.
yeah, that's right, yeah. And the tools that brands do today is if you don't have that measurement, then what's been done for years and years, as Josh was mentioning, is you do lift studies,
Yeah.
you do MMM type models.
Yeah.
And what this allows you to do is understand sales 3 months after you've run that campaign, after you've run that ad. And there's some problems with that. The first problem is the average user on TikTok or Meta, just thinking about social here, spends anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes a day. So this means that they're consuming a heck of a lot of content. And so if let's say you have 50 creatives out there, if you're only measuring 3 months later after you deploy those creatives, you might have missed a really big opportunity because you don't know actually which creatives are actually connecting with your shoppers. And if you're not getting that, if you're not getting these real-time signals, then your competitors might be getting those signals. And then that loyal customer, that shopper, is now trying a competitor to your brand. And so this is where this is becoming really table stakes on this closed loop attribution to quickly measure what the impact of your creatives, not 3 months into the future, but day by day in the week.
So we got a couple questions that come in here. One is, can you define closed loop attribution? And the next one is, I'll read the next one, understanding specific sources of offsite traffic. So Tara, we'll get to that one as too. So closed loop attribution, and then is it near real time? Because and then there's a bunch more coming in. Just a quick reminder, everybody, if you have questions, drop in the Q&A section there and we'll get them answered in real time.
Yeah, so closed loop, as we're defining this, is actual sales, actual add to carts, and being able to measure new to brand. And so it's not click to carts, it's not purchase intents, it's actual sales. So this is what you can start doing, is figuring out if you're running a creative, you can now start measuring actual sales that are coming in from that retailer. In real time is getting it that day or the next day. It's not waiting 2 months from now. It's not waiting the next week. It's being able to have campaigns that are in flight where you can now start seeing the sales come in.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So next question. A question for whenever it makes sense. Understanding specific sources of off-site traffic coming to retailer sites such as Amazon, Walmart, and Target has been difficult. Do you have any tips or tools for how to determine what's coming from search engines, Google, social, an ad affiliate, an article, generative AI engine so an LLM like ChatGPT? And is there any way to bucket this quote unquote other traffic? So thanks,
Yeah.
Sarah, for the question.
Queuing us up a little bit about AMP there. So I can't help but share a little bit. Some of that, a lot of that we do. So this traffic sources that are coming in are the big ones. And I was gonna allude to this, or sort of comment on this when you were talking about pandemic era when we were, you know, eating potato chips, sitting on the couch and shopping because we couldn't go outside and hang out with people. Now we're hanging out with people, so we're back to kind of not just hanging out on the retailer all day. We're in social, we're in search, all these different channels you mentioned, ChatGPT, what have you. Attribution is for sure enabled on all of those channels. For some of the retailers, Amazon is one of them. At different levels for other retailers, but the ability to understand what traffic is coming in from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, etc., into the retailer. And as Brandon had just got done sharing, closing the loop on what is the actual, not just add to cart, but they sold, they purchased, what's the new to brand value, the lifetime value. That's the measurement that you can get from those external channels coming in. Brandon might know more about Chat GPT and any of the LLMs, but those other channels, but for sure measurable on all the media ones.
Yeah, I would just say what we've seen is some of the thought leaders out here in terms of brands. They're being very proactive on making sure that they're getting traffic from the channels that are bringing incremental customers to their brand on these retailers. And so they're using traditional social channels. They're doing deep linking that are coming in. So essentially they're doing two things really well. They're deep linking and making sure that the path of purchase is very, very good to that retailer. They're making sure that they have campaigns going to each retailer, and think of just the three largest retailers here in the US, like Amazon, Walmart, Target. They have deliberate budgets that are going there. They have very specific creatives that are set up going to those retailers. And they're able to not only measure the clicks and impressions, the reach, but the add to carts and the conversions. And then on top of that, they're working with affiliate partners and providing links there as well. So they're able to measure the links from those affiliate partners going into those retailers. So the marketing teams are not just looking at how this happening what's on site. They're taking a proactive and deliberate approach of taking traffic that's coming from off site as well from these big incremental net new channels.
And I'd say one side comment on the LLMs, because that's obviously moving very quickly. But I just saw a news source yesterday, like fresh off the press, where they uncovered that Amazon and Shopify are blocking shopper agents now, actively blocking them because they want that information, right? They don't want that to be disintermediated by an unknown agent that does it on behalf of. So that's unfolding. So I probably want to comment more than that because that's not our area of expertise today, shopper agents. But that is, you imagine that the retailers don't necessarily want that. They do want the sales, but they want the customer too.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because you see Perplexity launching its own browser, Apple potentially buying Perplexity. It's going to get very convoluted. That's like a whole nother call, though.
That's a whole other call. Yeah,
That's a whole nother
let's
call.
stay on topic on so although it is fun. We talk about AI a lot here because we use AI. We're an AI platform underneath. So yeah.
I think it is. So when we think about media mix modeling, how do you think about that as a whole? Because a lot of the modeling portion of it is only the result of ingesting all the data around what's working and what's not. And then you can create the model of the best scenario. But that current model, just as marketing options, budgets, reporting, everything changes on I would say, quarterly basis now.
Yeah.
Like that has to be in near real time going. So how do you think about media mix modeling? And then I want to talk a little bit about tactics because you guys work with so many brands. What's old and outdated and what's new and what should people be thinking about? Are there, legacy rules, regulations in place that people need to be thinking about, all that fun stuff, and just,
Yeah,
remind others, keep dropping questions in here and we'll get them answered as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll let Brandon tackle on the media mix modeling. He's our chief technology officer. But as you talk about the tactics and how kind of like what is the opportunity and what are people missing? I think historically, because of how things have evolved, right? I mean, e-commerce has evolved relative to the scale of time of commerce very quickly. But you have these silos, right? You have the shopper dollars, you have the brand dollars, you have the trade dollars, you have the e-commerce sales. Like you have all of these in different places, but at the end of the day, that gives, I think, oftentimes can lead to a poor shopper experience. And you're back to that reach and impressions, right? You have like brand is optimizing for reach and impressions, but that's not the end sale that you're trying to get to. And back to that joke about, are you accountable for that $5 million or not? But if you can compress that and understand how the upper funnel is moving into the lower funnel, you can get insights from retail that will sharpen how the prospecting goes. And especially, I think even more so in the current world that we're living in, the tariffs, the uncertainty of the economy, every click has to drive to the bottom line. You can't have wasted ad dollars. I mean, you never should have had, but you really today you can have. So I feel like you need to have that upper funnel, understanding what the intent is, driving to the actual sale, connecting that together. And yes, this is where the mixed media modeling comes in as well. You can think about that, but that is absolutely something that you have to have.
yeah, and I would just say with the mixed media modeling, that's not going away. That's been around for years and years, and it does a very good job in justifying budgets, just as long as the MMM is done properly and you associate all your assumptions in, you can justify budgets on a quarterly basis. What it doesn't do a good job at is telling you in real time which creatives and which audiences are the most impactful for your shoppers. Driving revenue in real time. It doesn't tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening is that these brands have to wait 3 months and then they don't know which creatives actually worked. And as an example, so we have some brands that ran Super Bowl commercials. And so you can imagine how much a Super Bowl commercial cost in 2024 and 2025. And they tried the Super Bowl commercial on a social platform and they were trying it with attribution. And it was very surprising to them because the ROI wasn't as high as other ads that only cost tens of thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars. And so the idea here is that if you're able to get real-time signals, real-time sales on your creatives, all of a sudden, it's not just optimizing your ROAS. You're now able to make really informed decisions on which creatives, before you create the creatives, to create.
Yeah.
And how that's actually going to resonate with your audience. And so it's like this test-driven development of advertising, where the more informed you are, the better advertisements you're going to make. And really what that means is that they're going to provide more value to your shoppers at the end of the day.
And I just one quick quote anecdote on that. Onboarding a customer in a very large global brand, many brands underneath their portfolio company. And the gentleman that my sales team was talking to me said, wait a minute, you're telling me that I don't have to just launch 5 creatives this quarter. I could launch 50 and then see which ones work. Like this is a game changing, right? And
see which ones work this week and not have to wait that 3 months.
yeah, exactly. And that's what we're kind of in this conversation today with everyone listening. It's possible today to do that so that you can be at the place where it's where your customers, the closest place you want to interact with your customers on social, and understanding how they're converting and purchasing, where they want to, most of their purchases happen on the retailer. And that's kind of like a magical unlock moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's fundamentally then can change. I'm thinking even brand dollars in the spend.
100% brand performance.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's becomes performance marketing, especially like you were saying, it's like when you with what DSP unlocks is an incredibly target, especially everybody's streaming, right? Right now. I don't have cable. I still watch the
Yeah,
Super Bowl. I just streamed it. Now, if you can
right.
stream it, and then if you look at how many of those streaming platforms are now selling inventory to Amazon, right? Because it's then phenomenal that you could, instead of at a high level brand dollars just hoping and then seeing if there is a lift here or there, you can be very highly targeted with all of that. Again, back to the point, if you can close the loop and you can tie it back. Now you can
Yeah,
be very, very strategic with all of your spend. To your point, like, maybe it's $20,000 and you get as much out of that one as you do out of a Super Bowl ad.
yeah, that's right.
That's right.
You know, it's interesting. Joshua and I are seeing, um, we're seeing places now where a lot of brands are talking about incrementality.
Mm.
And they're hyper focused on that. And if you get kind of to the root cause of incrementality, it's really trying to answer the question, would this consumer have bought from me if I wasn't advertising? And the really heart of it is on-site advertising on these retail media platforms. And
Mm.
so what Josh and I have seen with the rest of our team is, by nature of advertising on social, because it's so vast and there's so many shoppers on there, billions of shoppers, what we'll see is just very high incrementality numbers, high new to brand numbers. So as brands and CPG brands are
Coming from
offsite are thinking about, you know, I have this ROAS number, but really my mandate is to get new shoppers, new customers in the funnel. Social and offsite search are great platforms to do that. And we see very high numbers on that at scale, 70 to 80% are new to brand. And so
Sometimes even 100.
so at that point, that is becoming kind of the North Star for these brands. And it's a lot less ROAS and more just like, can I get a shopper? Because they know as soon as I get a shopper, if it's a great product, which we hope all our customers have great products, they're going to keep that customer. They're going to keep that customer for a lifetime.
And Aaron, I subscribe to Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is usually the right one.
Mhm.
If you're not on the site yet, the retailer of choice, and you come on to the site with intent to purchase, there's a high likeliness that you are going to be directionally new to brand, right? Super simple, should make sense, but shockingly, but I think some of the retailers can make it confusing on that, but it is true, it holds true, and actually the retailers are giving us the measurement to prove that. So it's definitely worthwhile. Well, closing the loop, but also driving that offsite into the retailer. If you're not already today, most brands are already doing it. A lot of them, most of them without measurement, but measure it, because that is absolutely where your incremental growing your market share is.
Right.
Yeah, walk me through then Amped as a whole. So beyond the attribution that closed to like, can you walk through Amped? Just have a couple questions coming in. And thanks again. I mean, at the beginning, you're like, hey, there's no sales pitches, but there's enough questions that are saying, understand the platform. I think people would like to hear that. And then I don't know, if we could walk through a couple case studies would be fantastic, and we'll keep handling questions as we go.
Yeah, totally. So in short, right, all offsite media, measurable outcomes on the retailer. So today, that's the future. Today it's Meta, so Instagram, Facebook, it's Google search, it is TikTok, and there's a couple different ad formats on TikTok. We were just actually on a TikTok call with our partnership, literally a minute before we got on this. And then YouTube coming this year, and then with the retailers today, it's Amazon and Walmart, and we have others coming. You can look on our website and see those ones as well. So that we close the loop on attribution, so you can drive new incremental traffic and sales into the retailer, but we do it in a way that, and what the AMP platform does is automate scaling that. So it gets rid of all the manual process. That's our agentic system. But what's great about this is it's giving you the measurement that you didn't have without AMP. So you can anyone can go send traffic into their, PDPs or their storefronts at any of these retailers. But to understand what's working and what's not, to then scale it, that's what AMP does.
And it's pretty magical once a brand that we're working with sees sales for the first time
Yeah.
on like Meta or TikTok,
Yeah.
going into Amazon or Walmart, their eyes light up and they can never go back. Like it's something you can never not see sales. Once you see sales, you're always addicted to it. And it's really a game. It's like I'm getting X amount of sales right now. How do I connect more with my audience? How do I make the right audience? How do I make the right creative? How do I make the right punchline so that it's going to get to the people and really generate sales? So it's pretty fun to see from our standpoint.
It's a fun moment. We were building this technology 3 years ahead of its time, I think, and right now, I mean, we're definitely feeling a J-curve motion. I mean, with the kind of the biggest brands in the world are coming on board, and one of them is a consumer electronics brand. Everyone on the audience would know. I overheard a call with my team that was like, it was one of their holdco agencies and the brand, and they were just getting their data back the first week of data, and the comment was, "This is sick. Like, I want everything that Amp has. What else can we do?" Because they were only doing Meta to Amazon, but because the results were also incredible, insanely incredible. They're not always like that. Anything shy of that is still very good, but they were very good. And so it was the magic that Brandon said, seeing the sales from that and going into Amazon, knowing they're touching their customer, now they can iterate against those creatives. It's magical.
And in the first week, that was the big thing, is like we had a weekly call, and in the first week, they were able to include this is working.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what, the brand marketer, the CMO, the CFO, anybody wants is they don't mind spending the money on advertising if they can get the measurement and understand what's working and what's not. And
Right.
and one of the tough things that I hear from brands today is with 600 plus retail media networks out there, most of them don't work, right? It's just a dollar grab because what Amazon unlocked was this idea that brands have unlimited money to spend on site on digital paid media. And the reason it worked on Amazon is you can see it on Amazon. I'm going way back to my AMS days, right? Early on, where you could bid a nickel, a dime,
Nice.
and show an immediate impact on site, not off site, over and over again. But brands, at the end of the day, they just want help determining and pouring money into the platforms that are working. Could be on site, could be, paid search, social, whatever it is. Could be any platform. Just let me know and I'll pour more money in. But there's flip side is a justification to where, hey, we're not getting anything from this channel and that's why we're shutting it off.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's crazy. I mean, are you guys seeing like the same thing with the
Yeah, what we're seeing and what we were very surprised by is especially brands these days that are not selling on brand.com and on D2C, they are essentially having these solutions where they'll send marketing traffic. So think, Meta, TikTok, YouTube, they'll send it to brand.com. And then all of a sudden, from brand.com, you can see the product, but you can't actually buy it on the site. And then you get a window of 10 more retailers that you're talking about. And just bringing it back to what you were saying, Aaron, that there might be only 2 retailers that consumer shops at, but they're showing 10 retailers. And then now the consumer has a choice of 10 different choices that they now have to make. And all of a sudden, the consumer is getting frustrated and leaving. And so that's been another thing that I think we've seen in terms of the theme of kind of the brokenness of the state of commerce right now is we're still, especially CPG brands, they're still making the evolutionary step from moving from brand.com completely to retailer.com. And there's some growing pains in that. And so that's something that Josh and I are both very passionate about is how do we make it very, like, putting our shopper hat on? How do we make it super easy for a shopper to click an ad for a product that they want now and to be able to purchase without any extra steps? And then for the marketer to be able to understand the effectiveness of that ad, hence the ROI and the sales dollars.
And I would just add that brand.com is not going away, but you need a brand.com site. In fact, A lot of folks, you want a transactional brand.com site. You have those loyal customers. They want that full brand immersive experience, branding experience. Although I think, the retailers are getting very good and better at having that contiguous branding experience from, be as close to the customer as you can, all the way through from advertising to sales process to, obviously getting the product. But I think what Brandon said is true. I mean, you just watch all the, Nike's coming back on, Apple, like all these people that were like, hey, we're gonna do it on our own. You need the retailer. You absolutely have to be partnered with the retailer. It's where you're gonna move the most pallets. And as a brand, just face it, like you were built to move pallets. And guess what moves a lot of pallets? Retailers. They move a lot of pallets. And there's reasons behind that, right? And so I just, I would say, comment is don't sacrifice a sale for an email address. That may or may not be helpful, especially with all the spam filters out there anyway, but yeah. Emails are important, but look, at the end of the day, what you really want to do is move pallets and to your point, Aaron, let's pick the channels that are actually working and cut off the other ones. That you need to measure to be able to do that.
Yeah, where does the where to buy button, if you're talking about branded.com, that's popped up. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the where to buy button. And before we get there, Steve, as a quick comment. Yeah, remember those days, the 2-cent AMS ads. And those are the best when you could set $1,000 budget and you wouldn't blow through it. You're like, the CMO's like, why aren't you spending more? Like, I can't make people click like more. Like,
yeah. No, totally. I wouldn't say it's archaic, but I mean, they've been around for a decade or so. Look, I think there's two reasons the where to buy exists. One of them is still very valid, right? It's the website that we were just talking about. You go to, cpgbrand.com, but you're not going to buy that CPG item on that website. You're going to go buy it at a retailer, but you need to know where to buy it. Literally, where to buy it. That's what it is. I would say where it is no longer relevant is in media. So if shoppers are giving you their intent, right? You're literally interrupting, you're slowing down, as Brandon was saying, one more click or two or three, or sometimes even more than that to get to the actual purchase. It's just a bad experience for the shopper, which ultimately means a bad experience for sales on the brand side. And where to buy softwares are limited is they're measuring carts, sure, a little bit of intent, but they don't close the loop. So they don't know that the person actually bought with a full 30-day attribution window, and 100% they do not drive media. So you can't scale to get more of those customers. They don't understand which creative, which intent, which keyword to scale against, which one is driving the most long-term lifetime value, right? And so I think that the goal today is on especially the shoppable, or sorry, not shoppable, but in the media side of things, don't remove the access. You want to give them that, just give them a smarter, just a better UX experience that where you can close the loop and actually drive the sales and give the customer what they want. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more annoying, and I personally lived through this. If I'm scrolling on Instagram and I was buying a razor the other day, and when I clicked the ad, I was ready to buy. And I had stuff to do, I was in transit, and what I realized is that when I clicked the ad, it gave me 10 more choices of different retailers where I still couldn't buy. And so now I'm 10 seconds into this experience, I can't buy, and I don't know.
I give up.
Choose.
I give up.
I give up. Yeah. And so what did I do? I literally just stopped that, and I just went on to Amazon and bought. And I
so the ad worked, but there's no attribution then.
There's no attribution, and
so if that happens over and over again, you're going to get a feedback that whatever doesn't work.
Yeah,
and you might dial it back when it might be your #1 channel.
Exactly. Now I still bought from that brand because I'm very loyal to that brand. But imagine if I wasn't loyal to that brand. Imagine if I was just looking at that ad and I was like, oh, that looks great, and I'm going to click on that, and then I lost interest, like you were just saying. I went on Amazon or Walmart or Target and then bought. All of a sudden, now if I search for that same thing, I get 10 different ads from 10 different competitors. And so I think this is the big opportunity is like, how do we not annoy shoppers? How do we make it so that it's really easy for them to do it? Our thought on this is like, let's back solve for the shopper experience. And if we can make a really awesome shopper experience, that's very easy to buy. What you see is what you're actually going to get, and you can buy within a couple seconds. then that shopper experience should be resonant in the ROI. And that's exactly what we're seeing when we look at sales data.
100%. Things are better. Customers don't want a fractional experience. They want a
Yeah.
seamless. I know what I want. I saw it in my friend group cohort that the ad feed that I got from TikTok is telling me. I'm like, yep, that resonates. That work's been done. Don't let me purchase it.
Yeah, and I mean, and marketers are smart these days. They realize that if you put any more steps in the funnel, you're gonna get drop off. And so if you put, if you're sending, let's say $5 million on Meta, and you have now 3 steps to your funnel versus 2, you better believe you're gonna lose whether it's 30 to 50% of your traffic just off the set. And so if you now look at conversion rates on that, you've just now lost a couple $1 million right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can afford not to have the measurement tool in place at this point in time.
Yeah,
You can't. You can't just be like the old spraying and praying type thing. They just
exactly.
so that begs a couple questions, and Steve has a point in here about the where to buy pages. You know, to that point, I think the AI scraping and search websites and our where to buy pages will continue to erode in relevance and traffic, 100%. People will just navigate away from it if it's a pain. It
Yeah.
needs to only get smoother and smoother and smoother. And brands want it. I mean, that like
Yeah.
if that ad is working that good, but there's no connection or attribution, you may end up turning it off because you don't know. And it may
Yeah.
be your best performing ad.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what's interesting about like where to buy solutions is that originally it was meant to fulfill what's called the Robinson-Patman Act, the fair and equitable. And what it was meant to do was give the smaller retailers the same chance as the larger retailers for shoppers to shop at. But the fair and equitable part, it's interesting because the equitable part means that if you're making the bulk of your sales, your online sales from, let's just say it's Amazon and Walmart, for instance, then the equitable part means that you can now have an equitable amount of your marketing budget going to those retailers because that's where the sales are coming from. And also, if you have X amount of retailers that are providing measurement to you, then that gives you technology that you don't have at the other retailers.
We dove right into Robinson. I love that you bring that up, Brandon. Any of the big brands on here that are listening are going to know what it is right away. But for those who don't know, Robinson-Patman Act was basically to get away from price fixing back in it was established in 1936, just to kind of date it. My parents weren't alive, Aaron. I don't know if your parents were alive in 1936, but like it was not built for a world where there would be multiple channels and Amazon type scale and hundreds of retail. It was not built for that era. So there's been a lot of fear and irrational. And in fact, Brandon's done a lot of work with some of the top litigators that have been fighting on behalf of the big global brands to do research to understand how this is working with the FTC. Even the FTC, after actually we did a webinar with another group, it was shortly after that webinar that a case got dropped. I did tag FTC in it. I don't want to say I had a hand in that, but it's irrational, some of the things that get brought up. And by the way, out of all the years, like the last case besides this one that got dropped was in 1980 something. Like it's not an enforced because it's not people are complaining because it's not built to kind of close people in the way people think it is, where, oh, I need to spend equal media to Piggly Wiggly and Hy-Vee and Amazon. Like, no, it's not meant that way. It's what Brandon just said.
Yeah.
Fair and justifiable, fair and equitable. So, and also, one other interesting thing is, for those that know, a little more deep dive on RPA is, if the retailer does not have the technology in place to close the loop, like, attribution, I'm talking Amazon attribution or Walmart or some of these others, then you don't have to do it either. Then it's not enforceable there either. So quick note to any retailers listening, please, bring attribution out. But yeah, does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah.
Brandon's an expert in our team on this though.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it from an outdated standpoint, is if you had to like pick one like outdated strategy or tactic that you see brands using, like what would you say? This is the number one people need to stop doing.
I mean, I would say the where to buy, honestly. I
Yeah,
think
okay.
a lot of why they exist is because I mean, whether they know it or
Yeah.
not, it's the fear of this RPA, which is not, again, it's been proven over decades that it's not enforced because there's not reason to enforce it here. So I say that's outdated, in that regard, especially when you're coming from the media side. Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I would say going back to marketing fundamentals. All marketers realize that if you put extra steps in the funnel, that it's going to lower your sales rate and the conversion rate. And I would also say too is that the time where you can now just measure impressions and reach has gone away. And really what you have to do now is you have to make a concerted effort to measure sales.
Yeah.
And so the set it and forget it type mentality of whoever's running your ads, that can't be the case anymore, because I can tell you firsthand, our team has looked at the data. If you're just setting your social channel and you're putting a lifetime budget on there and you're not checking which creatives are actually generating the highest conversion rates, you're losing out big time on sales. So now more than ever, because so much attention spans and mind share is on social, you have to be there and understanding which creatives are actually driving which sales and have really a finger on the pulse on a daily to a weekly thing, not every 3 months.
And we work with some great agency partners and some, let's just say some are more on the set and forget side and some are more on the let's actively engage. I just think the pressure needs to come on and the brands are asking for it. They're demanding it, saying, no, we can't just set and forget. I need you managing this, actively managing it. You can't just say, well, it's best practices of Meta or best practices to just, no, get in there, manage, look what's happening and see the real time sales that are being driven in and then make adjustments based on that. That set and forget is absolutely something that needs to go away.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you like walk through like what is like an engagement with Amped look like? Like is it a month setup? Is it like what does that look like? How long before there's a benefit that's seen? Like, just a couple people want to understand that. And then I mean more than happy to connect everybody afterwards, right? With Brandon and Joshua for sure. But
Yeah.
what does that look like? Because nobody wants a year-long setup, but I would love to hear that side of things, and then we can kind of get to key takeaways and as we wrap up here.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thanks for the question. I definitely wanted this to be thought leadership, and I really appreciate all these questions. It's a fun space that we're in right now. So very easy to get set up with us as far as onboarding. You talk to our sales team. It's they're pretty nice guys. Pretty seamless process. Getting tactical about it. Once you say yes, we're in. We want to work with Amped, and we have customers that are years old, like continuing and growing or expanding with the different offerings we have. You OAuth into your Amazon, your Walmart, your Meta, your TikTok, your Google. It's a very literally a click, connect everything together. And then Amped starts launching ads, or you launch ads from Amped and you measure it. You can see it in a dashboard that kind of almost brings it into parity of what you might see in an Amazon Ads console or a Walmart Connect console, and you can see ad, keyword, creative level, starting set all the way down to what is add to carts, what sales, what's new to brand, what's the lifetime value, and then you can let Amped automate scale against that, or you can do that. But it's just to kind of answer it punchy, you could be up and running in a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. We were able to get a consumer electronics brand on a day before this Prime Day.
Yeah.
Up and running and scaled to a multi-million-dollar revenue run rate just in 5 days. And it only took 24 hours before Prime Day was going on. So that's the expectation now. I think that brands and agencies should have on technology vendors as us, is it shouldn't take a year, it shouldn't take a quarter, it should be a matter of days. The other thing I'd add here too is that we can plug into your existing ads.
That's right.
So on Meta, TikTok, Google, whatever you have set up, we don't need to do the whole recreation of this. We can plug in and measure what you have here. So this is meant to be as seamless as possible and quick as possible, so that way you can get that sales feedback.
Yeah, and I just had one last one, because this one just came literally yesterday morning. Came in and they were so happy. It was one of the big holdcos, one of their big brands. This one was I think a beverage brand, large beverage brand, global. Back to that lights going on, they turned on just a few weeks ago and they were live within 3 or 4 days. And because they could see the sales, they're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna double our budgets overnight from what they were doing previously because they're watching what's working and killing the bad stuff. So yeah, it's very fast. Yeah.
Yeah. A quick question before we get to like key takeaways, Steve Joyce, why in a world where Amazon is giving more and more data along with many other retailers to help us brands perform better and grow together, do we also find retailers simply gatekeeping this stuff and yet still asking for more and more money? It's so true. I assume their data is in the performance isn't good. Right. I mean, I totally agree with you. Steve. Like, it's because why would we share the data? Because you're going to say, no, I'm not going to dole out any more money. But they need their retail media marketing JBP funds as a profit center. True. But rationally, what are they thinking? Steve, I want to have a foul conversation. I want to thank you because
we can go on. But I mean, I think this is where we're such a brilliant partner to the brand. I mean, we're for the brands, right? And obviously we're helping the retailer too, because we're bringing in lots of eyeballs of traffic, and those people might not just buy the razor, but buy the toothpaste and the hairbrush and everything else, and click on ads to do that in the process. It's a whole other conversation. So we're definitely a good partner to the retailers. We love our retailer partners, but fundamentally the brand is our customer, and the brand wants to, they've already, to the point of all this comments you just read, they've already kind of opened the kimono quite a bit, and the retailers ask for more and more because they want more of that data and to get more of that spend. But the brands are like, hey, let me at least keep my brand dollars over here. You got my trade, you got my shopper. Let me keep this. And if the brand can then understand how their brand dollars are driving performance on let the retailer do what it does good, sell things, like transact. Let the brand do what it does good, advertise and bring the customers in. That's like the harmonious relationship, and AMP really enables that.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add here too is that different retailers are going to have much different stances on this. So you're going to have retailers that are very close guarded with their data and with measurement. And then you're going to have other retailers that are much more open with the measurement. And here's, I think, the winning strategy of where this is going to be in the next couple of years, up to 5 years out, is that what we're seeing here is that these retailers ultimately, the way that they're able to make more money and revenue on their advertising is they need eyeballs. Which means that they need shoppers on their website. And the marketing landscape is changing dramatically with all the AI, with all the social, TikTok making moves. So there's a lot of attention span being partitioned into other places that are not the main retailers. And so the retailers, I think, are in a very interesting and precarious position. If they closely guard the data, then the brands don't have the necessary places to make decisions on to send their marketing dollars, which means to send their shoppers to shop on the retailer. And the ones that are more open with their data are the ones that are now going to be able to provide measurement for the brands. And now the brands are much more openly going to be able to send their shoppers to the retailers. The reason why these retailers need these shoppers is they need, obviously, purchases and revenue to happen on the retailer, but also to support their ad network. It's virtually impossible to keep growing your ad network if you don't have traffic and net new shoppers coming to your retailer. So as a brand, the way that I strategically think about it is the leverage that you have as a brand, obviously, is your brand, but also the marketing budgets that you have to deploy. And so these marketing budgets, I think, are a very good leverage and negotiation tactic to say, hey, I will take my budgets and send it over to the retailer, but in exchange, I need measurement. I need the ability to be able to have a very good purchase journey for my shoppers and whatever else is in the negotiation. And so I think, obviously, each retailer is different, but I think in the future, I think we are going to the road of more openness because you have to, from the retailer standpoint, to get those ad dollars and those eyeballs in.
And as much as the retailer wants to think it's just their world and everything lives in there, it doesn't. Even at the scale of Amazon,
Yeah.
100 million people visit a day or whatever the number is compared to 9 billion Google searches and X billions, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not the whole world. It needs to be more open.
got it. You're.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Joshua and Brandon, for your time today. Thanks for, I don't know, being such great friends, partners, supporters of the network. And I would encourage everybody to have a follow-up conversation with them and the team at Amped. They're just doing fantastic things. We hear great things from the brands of the network about the services they're able to provide and be able to close that loop as a whole. Look for a follow-up email from me. I'd love to have a conversation from you as well, just from the standpoint of, hey, what are the biggest things happening in your world on the brand side? What are the next topics we should cover? What are the next dinners that we should do? And hey, who are the best people helping you out as a whole? With that, I think we're going to wrap up this webinar here. Again, encourage you to reach out to the team at AMP. But Brandon, Joshua, thanks so much for your time today. With that, we're going to wrap up. Everybody take care, stay safe, and look forward to having you at a future event. We'll see you guys.